Skupny. I am from C Designs. I am a software engineer there. We are basically able to help you be able to develop your passions. We design some passions, and we're willing to work with you to get things done. I'm just doing a small 30-minute quick dive into a few topics on iOS development. It's a quick overview, just as Carla mentioned. So, my 4 topics here are memory management, ARC versus non-ARC. I'll explain that in just a second. Instruments, which is useful for checking out memory leaks, being able to profile your app. Look for something called zombies. That's not as interesting as it sounds. Anyway, we've got storyboards, which is something that you could use, you couldn't use. I kind of explained the kind of compare and contrast there. And being able to put multiple targets into your project for your apps, which can help you deploy for multiple clients or multiple platforms. So first off, of course, is memory management, ARC versus non-ARC. And what exactly is ARC? It stands for Automatic Reference Count. See, the thing is, with a lot of development, we usually use objects, and objects usually need to be able to count how many times something owns an object. It's like having someone buy a car and then your whole family owns the car, like your son drive it, your wife drive it, or whatever. You have to make sure that you know who owns that car. I kind of want to go over the pros and cons of using them. Sometimes they will be very useful, but for us, most of the applications we develop, we don't really see as much use. But what is a storyboard, first off? It is a new way that Apple gave for creating and organizing views. It was introduced for iOS 5. Basically what you do is, instead of having separate nib files, if you're used to Xcode development and or a designer of views, to be able to get your views to be able to go through your project, instead of having a separate file for each and every view, you have them all in one container, a storyboard container. That's a file. All your views, all your view controllers go in there. And besides having views of view controllers, you actually have segues. Segues connect from one view controller or one view to another controller, another view. And not just let you say click a button, go to the next one. You can also add animations and be able to see if maybe you call some other code. First off, like I said, simpler communications between view controllers due to the segues idea. You got a complete look at the application flow. Everything is in there in that one little thing. You reduce your clutter within your project from having many nibs. I mean, a lot of times we have them all organized in one big column of views, and sometimes it's hard to remember, oh, this one is named something, this one isn't. Whereas here you can say, oh, this name definitely is associated with this view, and we have everything in this view. And finally, there's prototype cells. And this was probably one of the most interesting features I noticed when storyboards first came up. Prototype cells are basically being able to create a cell within the table view that they're used for. So you just design visually, instead of having to make them in a separate view, and then have to assign them to the table view, which is a bit of a tricky thing to do. And you don't have to put all the buttons in grammatically, put the positions in, all that kind of stuff. Now the cons, on the other hand, like I said, we don't really use storyboards. I already kind of told you there was a lot of cool stuff for them. One of the reasons is the one file idea. Kind of makes it difficult if you're trying to get multiple developers to work on something, because perhaps you have a couple designers and you want them working on different view controllers or different views. Being able to have them separate files makes merging things together a bit easier if you're using like version control or something. And that's the last thing I have right now. If there's any questions, like I said, I'll do my best to answer them. So just raise your hand, just come at me.